The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Queen sat on her throne in the great hall of the palace, her blue skin gleaming under the light of 1,000 crystals. She was the most powerful being in 100 star systems. Kings and emperors bowed before her. Entire planets followed her commands without question. But on this day, even her power could not stop the trembling in her hands. A guard approached the throne and bowed low. "Your Majesty," he said, "a transport ship has entered our space. The crew requests immediate permission to dock at the royal platform." The Queen did not move. Transports entered space every day. Most brought tribute or trade goods. Most were beneath her notice. "Why do you tell me this?" she asked the guard. The guard hesitated. "Your Majesty, the manifest is unusual. There is a board, one of royal blood." The Queen stood. The entire court fell silent. She descended the steps of her throne slowly, her movements precise and controlled. But her eyes burned with something no one had seen before. Fear and hope mixed together like two colors bleeding into one. Within the hour, the transport landed on the royal platform. The Queen watched from above as the cargo doors opened. A figure stepped out. A woman with blue skin and the face of someone who had lived hard. She wore clothes that were not. She carried the weight of years on her shoulders like a heavy coat. Behind her walked two human children. A boy of perhaps 14, with dark hair and serious eyes. A girl of about 12, with lighter hair and a small smile. Both humans held the woman's hands as they walked down the ramp. The court erupted in whispers. Humans. The woman had brought humans to the palace, not as prisoners or slaves, but as if they were her own children. The Queen walked forward without waiting for ceremony. Her guards tried to stop her, but she pushed past them. She was the Queen. She did what she wanted. She said, the name came out like a prayer. The woman looked up. Her eyes went wide. She fell to her knees, pulling the two children down with her. Mother said, the word was barely a whisper. The Queen lifted her daughter to her feet. She looked at her, searching for the girl she had lost 20 years ago, was no longer a girl. She was a woman and changed by time, but she was real. She was alive. She was here. The Queen pulled her daughter into an embrace. Years of control and power fell away. Tears ran down her face as she held against her chest. The boy and girl stood awkwardly beside them, unsure what to do. The boy spoke in broken. "We are sorry if we have caused offense, Your Majesty. We did not know about your culture when we came here." The Queen released and looked at the children. She saw fear in their faces, but also courage. They stood straight. They did not cry or cower. They looked at the Queen of the galaxy as equals. "What are your names?" the Queen asked in clear, simple words. The boy answered, "I am Tommy, Your Majesty. This is my sister Lisa." "You speak our language," the Queen said. "Our mother taught us," Lisa said. "She said it was important to understand people who were different from us." The Queen looked at, her daughter nodded. These children had saved her life. They had kept her alive when everything else failed. They were her children now, as much as any could be. "Come," the Queen said, taking his hand. "We have much to discuss, and we will need to prepare quarters for these young ones. They are family now." The court watched in shock as the Queen led her daughter and two human children through the palace halls. By tomorrow, the news would spread to every corner of the empire. The Queen's missing daughter had returned after 20 years, and she had brought something no one expected. She had brought hope that the empire and humanity could be more than enemies in the darkness of space. That night in the private chambers of the palace, the Queen sat across from her daughter. Tommy and Lisa slept in the room next to them, exhausted from the journey and the strangeness of everything they had seen. "Tell me," the Queen said, "tell me everything. How did you survive? How did you find these children?" Took a deep breath and began her story. And as she spoke, the Queen realized that her understanding of power, strength, and what it meant to be a ruler was about to change forever. Her daughter had returned not with weapons or armies. She had returned with love. And love, the Queen was beginning to understand, might be the most powerful force in the entire galaxy, sat beside her mother in the quiet room. The Queen did not interrupt her. She only listened. And so began to tell the story of what had happened to her, a story that would change everything the Empire believed about itself. 15 years ago, my transport was crossing the outer sectors, said. We were on a diplomatic mission to a distant colony, but our instruments detected a meteor storm ahead. The captain tried to avoid it, but we were already caught in its path. The Queen leaned forward. What happened? She asked. The ship was torn apart, said simply. I do not remember much after that. The final impact knocked me unconscious. When I woke, I was on the ground. The ship was burning around me. I could not move my legs. My arm was broken. I thought I would die there. The Queen's face remained calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair with force. I waited, continued. I waited for rescue that I knew would never come. We were too far from any outpost. Our distress beacon was destroyed in the crash. No one would find me. I was alone. But someone did find you, the Queen said. Someone human. Yes, said. A human mining vessel was working on a moon nearby. They detected the explosion from the crash. The captain of that vessel, a man named, he ordered his crew to investigate. They found me 3 days later. Why would humans help you? The Queen asked. Your people are not known for kindness to humans. Did not care what I was, said. He saw someone who needed help. His wife, Karen, was a doctor. She did not have knowledge of medicine. She did not know how to treat my wounds properly, but she used what she had. She used human medicine and human stubbornness. The Queen frowned. Stubbornness, she repeated. Yes, said. Karen refused to let me die. When one treatment did not work, she tried another. When she did not have medicine, she made it from the plants she found. Brought me food that was not food, but it kept me alive. They worked for weeks, and slowly I began to heal. My ship, said, it had technology far beyond what humans possessed. The engine was damaged. The navigation system was broken, but did not give up. He studied the systems. He could not understand all of them, but he found ways to make parts of the ship function again. He worked on it every day for months. The Queen said nothing. She understood now that her daughter was not telling her about rescue. She was telling her about something more important. The outpost, continued, was called Outpost 7. It was a place where humans had come to find rare minerals. The work was hard. The pay was poor. Many would have abandoned it and returned to their home worlds. But these humans stayed. They built homes. They grew food. They made a community. And Tommy and Lisa, the Queen asked, where did they come from? And Karen had a life together, said. After I recovered, I stayed. I could not operate my ship alone. I could not reach home, and I did not want to leave them. They had saved my life. They had shown me kindness that no had ever shown me. Tommy was born 5 years after I arrived. Lisa came 3 years later, said they were his children, but they were mine too. I loved them as much as any mother could love her children. We were a family. The Queen stood and walked to the window. Outside, the capital spread below her like a kingdom made of light and stone. She had ruled this place for 30 years. She had made it powerful. She had made it feared. But she was beginning to understand that she had made it empty. Tell me what happened, the Queen said. How did you survive without technology? How did you care for the children? We were poor, said. There was barely enough food, but we learned to grow what we needed. Tommy and Lisa learned to work hard at a very young age. They learned that survival came from helping each other, not from being strong. They learned that a family does whatever is needed for the family to live. Years passed, continued, and Karen grew older. The work at the mine was hard on them, and then illness came. Karen fell sick first, tried to save her, but human medicine was not enough. She died. Paused. The Queen could see tears on her daughter's face. Followed her 6 months later, said, I became sick as well. I was dying. I thought I would join them, But Tommy and Lisa would not let me die. They were only 8 and 11 years old, but they worked like adults. They traded goods with other colonies. They brought back medicine. They cared for me every day until I recovered. The Queen returned to her seat. She understood now why her daughter held those children's hands like they were more precious than any treasure in the Empire. They saved my life, said. Not because they were, not because I was royal. They saved my life because they loved me, and I have never felt more alive than when I was with them. The Queen reached out and took her daughter's hand. I am proud of you, she said. I am proud of what you have done. I am proud of who you have become. Looked up at her mother. Will the Empire accept them, she asked. Will they accept that I love 2 humans as my own children? The Queen's expression hardened. The Empire will accept whatever I tell it to accept, she said. You are the princess of these are your children. That is all anyone needs to know. Anyone who says otherwise will answer to me directly. And with those words, the Queen set in motion events that would change the galaxy forever. The council chamber was cold. 7 lords sat at a long table made of black stone. They had ruled the Empire alongside the Queen for decades. They had conquered worlds. They had made laws that shaped billions of lives. And now they were angry. This is unacceptable, Chancellor Vox said. His skin was pale with age and his voice was like the grinding of stone. The princess has brought humans into the palace. Humans. The creatures we barely tolerate on the border worlds. The Queen sat at the head of the table. Her face was a mask of calm. My daughter will be treated with respect, she said, and her children will be treated as members of the royal family. Lord Vox leaned forward. Your Majesty, this is a stain on the honor of. The princess should have come home alone. These humans should be sent to a research facility. They are primitive creatures. They have no place here. Another lord, a younger man named Petros, stood. He had a sharp face and eyes that missed nothing. I agree, he said. We do not even know if they carry disease. Humans live in such filth. What if they infect the palace? The Queen did not raise her voice. Get them tested. I do not care, but they will stay. The princess has made her decision and I support it completely. Lord Vox rose from his seat. Your Majesty, I must speak plainly. This decision will weaken us. The galaxy will see that honors creatures beneath our notice. They will believe we have become soft. Then let them believe it, the Queen said. She stood now, and everyone in the room went silent. I want the princess and her children brought to the council chamber. I want you all to meet them. My Majesty, this is highly irregular, a third lord said. Council meetings are not social gatherings. It is not a social gathering, the Queen replied. It is a lesson. Within the hour, the chamber doors opened. Walked in, holding Tommy and Lisa by their hands. The children looked small in this vast room. The stone walls seemed to swallow them, but they walked forward with their heads high. The Queen gestured to the table. Speak to them, she commanded. Ask them what you wish to know. Tommy stepped forward. The boy was nervous, but his voice was steady. What do you want to know? He asked. Lord Vox stared at the boy. Can you read and write? He demanded. Yes, Tommy said. My mother taught me. So did the teacher from our colony. I can read in human language and in language. This is impossible, Vox said. Humans cannot learn our language. It is too complex. Tommy opened his mouth to answer, but Lisa spoke instead. We learned because we wanted to understand, she said. My mother wanted us to understand her people, so we worked hard until we could speak with her properly. Petros leaned back in his chair. He was studying the children with a new kind of attention. He asked, why did your colony help the princess? What did you gain from it? We gained nothing, Tommy said. We helped her because she needed help. That is what you do for people, you help them. Petros felt something cold in his chest. This was not a good answer for someone who believed in logic and benefit. This was an answer based on something else entirely. Lisa continued speaking. When my mother was sick, we took care of her. We did not do it because we would get a reward. We did it because she was our mother. We loved her." The chamber fell silent. The lords did not understand this kind of thinking. The way was to calculate benefit, to measure gain and loss, to make decisions based on what would increase power and reduce weakness. Spoke then, she addressed the council directly. "These children kept me alive when all of you had written me off as dead. They worked harder than any adult in your armies. They loved more deeply than you have taught your own families to love. They are human, yes, but they are also my children, and they are worthy." Lord Vox stood. "This changes nothing. They are still human. The fact that they can speak words does not change what they are." "Then what are they?" the Queen asked. "Look at them, tell me, what do you see?" Vox struggled for words. "I see creatures who lack our strength, who live short lives, who lack our technology." Petros interrupted him. "I see something else," he said quietly. "I see creatures who are dangerous in a way we have never faced before." The council turned to look at Petros. He continued speaking. "We have fought many enemies. We have crushed them with our armies. We have destroyed them with our technology, but we have never fought creatures like this. These humans do not think like we do. We see a problem and we use force. They see a problem and they find a way around it. They do not move forward with logic. They move forward with something else, with determination, with hope, with love." Petros looked directly at the Queen. "If we make these creatures into our enemies, we will have made a terrible mistake. They do not conquer with weapons. They conquer with the ability to survive anything, to persist no matter what happens, to care for each other in ways that make them stronger, not weaker." The Queen nodded. "This is why my daughter will remain here," she said. "This is why her children will be raised in the palace, because we need to understand them, not to conquer them, not to control them, but to understand them, because they possess something we have lost in 3,000 years of power and rule." Lord Vox sat down slowly. His face was twisted with anger and confusion. "You are making a mistake," he said. "Perhaps," the Queen replied, "but it is my mistake to make. This is my decision. The council will accept it." She gestured to and the children. "We are done here. You may leave." As led Tommy and Lisa from the chamber, Petros watched them go. He was thinking about what he had said. He was thinking about humans and danger, and the strange power that came from something the Empire did not understand. That night, for the first time in 1,000 years, a lord wondered if his people had been wrong about something important, and he understood that the future would not be like the past. The future would be different. The future would be shaped by creatures the Empire had never learned to fear properly. 3 years passed after return to the palace with her 2 children. Tommy was 17 now, and Lisa was 15. The palace had changed them, but they had also changed the palace. On a warm afternoon, Tommy stood in a training ground with a group of young soldiers. They were learning combat techniques. The instructor, a veteran named Colonel, was demonstrating a standard military formation. "This is how we have always fought," said. "We move in precise lines. We use overwhelming force at every point of contact. We do not retreat. We do not hesitate." Tommy raised his hand. "May I ask a question?" he said. The instructor frowned. "Questions are not encouraged." But Tommy was the princess's child. He had certain privileges now, gestured for him to speak. "What if you did not have overwhelming force?" Tommy asked. "What if your enemy was stronger and you faced them with a traditional formation? What would happen?" "You would lose," said. "It is simple." Tommy nodded. "But what if instead of fighting strength with strength, you used the enemy's strength against them? What if you made the strength a weakness?" The soldiers looked confused. This was not how they thought about war. Tommy walked to the center of the training circle. "Let me show you something humans learned a long time ago," he said. He asked for 5 soldiers to come at him at once with practice weapons. The soldiers were far stronger than he was. They were trained. But Tommy moved in a way that used their momentum against them. He did not block their attacks. He redirected them. He moved around their force instead of against it. Within moments, all 5 soldiers were on the ground. The training ground fell silent. Colonel studied Tommy carefully. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. "My father taught me," Tommy said. He was human. He worked in a mine, and he knew that the way humans survived was not by being stronger than the rock. It was by understanding how to move with the rock, to work with it instead of against it. Did not smile, but something in his expression changed. He ordered the soldiers to stand. "Teach us this," he said to Tommy. That afternoon, the military training of the Empire changed. And no one knew it yet, but this small change would ripple outward in ways that would shake the foundation of galactic power. Meanwhile, Lisa was in a different part of the palace. She sat with a young princess named, who was about her age. They were in a garden filled with strange alien flowers. "Why do you always ask people how they feel?" asked. "It is strange. It is not logical." Lisa smiled. "Because feelings matter," she said. "When you understand how someone feels, you understand them better. You can help them better." Was confused by this. In culture, emotions were something to be controlled and hidden. They were signs of weakness. "My mother told me something," Lisa said. "She said that humans have ruled themselves for thousands of years without great technology. We survived because we care about each other. We understood that taking care of someone was more important than having power over them." Said nothing for a long time. Finally she asked, "Do you miss your home? Do you miss Outpost 7? "Every day," Lisa said honestly. "But I also know I need to be here. I need to help my mother build a bridge between our people. And I need to help people like you understand that being strong and being caring are not opposites. You can be both." In the years that followed, these 2 young women became close friends. And through Lisa, learned to speak about her fears and her hopes in ways no had ever been taught to do. Meanwhile, became an ambassador. She traveled to human colonies across the outer sectors, bringing technology and supplies. The life conditions on colonies like Outpost 7 changed dramatically. Food became plentiful. Medicine became available. Education improved. The humans of the outer sectors realized that they were not forgotten. They were not abandoned by the Empire. They were being seen. They were being valued. The first joint expedition was announced 1 year later. A team of soldiers and human miners would work together to explore the disputed border regions. These areas had never been fully mapped because they were dangerous. Previous attempts had ended in failure or loss of life. Colonel was chosen to lead the military side, and Tommy was asked to join the expedition as an advisor on human problem solving. They departed on a large ship with both and human crew members. For the first 2 weeks, there was tension. The soldiers were used to following orders without question. The human miners were used to finding new solutions to unexpected problems. These 2 approaches often clashed. But then a crisis occurred. The ship encountered an asteroid field that their instruments could not navigate. The way was to power through it, breaking apart the asteroids with force. But Tommy suggested a different approach. He proposed that they study the asteroids, find the patterns in their movement, and sail between them rather than through them. Wanted to refuse, but he had seen Tommy in training. He had learned something new. He agreed to try. It took longer. It required patience. But the ship made it through without damage. And more importantly, the soldiers saw that there were ways to solve problems beyond force. When the expedition returned months later, they had mapped the entire border region and established bases that could support future expansion. The joint team had succeeded where forces alone had failed. The news spread throughout the Empire. Humans and could work together. Humans could contribute. Humans had value. Chancellor Vox died of age during this time. The new council was younger, and several members had seen what humans could do. They were beginning to understand that the old ways of thinking about other species might be wrong. Stood in her chamber one evening and looked at messages from Outpost 7. Her colony was thriving now. Children were being born and raised without fear of starvation. Young people were going to school and dreaming of futures that seemed possible. She thought of and Corinne. They would have been proud. And she thought of her mother, the Queen. The Queen had trusted her daughter. She had made a choice based on love instead of power, and that choice was changing everything. The great hall of the palace was filled with thousands of people. Dressed in their finest clothing stood beside humans in simple but clean outfits. The two species had never gathered together in this way. It felt significant. It felt like the beginning of something new. Queen sat on her throne, watching the crowd below. Beside her and behind them stood Tommy and Lisa, now young adults. Tommy was a lieutenant in the military. Lisa was studying to become a diplomat. They had grown between two worlds and belonged to both. The Queen stood. The entire crowd fell silent. "Today," she said, "we make something official that has been growing in truth for many years. Today, we recognize that the Empire is not alone in the galaxy. And more than that, we recognize that we are stronger because we are not alone." She paused and continued. "For 3,000 years, my people have ruled through power. We have ruled through technology and military strength. We have believed that our way was the only way. We have believed that strength meant crushing those who were different from us." The Queen looked down at Tommy and Lisa. That belief was wrong. A young human woman stood and walked toward the throne. She was old, with white hair and a gentle face. This was the teacher from Outpost 7. She had come to the palace on this special day. The Queen descended from her throne and embraced. "This woman," the Queen said to the gathered crowd, "is the first official human ambassador to the Empire. She is not a warrior. She is not a politician. She is a teacher. And she is here because humans teach us what we have forgotten." Spoke then her voice small but clear. "I taught Tommy and Lisa when they were children. I taught them to read. I taught them to think. But they taught me something more important. They taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what is right even when you are afraid. They proved this every day they cared for their mother." The crowd was silent, did not understand this kind of emotion, but they were beginning to learn. The Queen continued, "I am announcing new laws today. The first law is that humans are welcome to attend any university in the Empire. Education is now open to all intelligent species. The second law is that any who wishes to live on human colonies is permitted to do so. We will exchange knowledge. We will exchange culture. We will exchange hope." Some of the older lords looked unhappy, but the younger ones who had grown up with Tommy and Lisa in the palace, they looked hopeful. The Queen turned too. "My daughter has asked to remain as ambassador to the human worlds. She will continue to build relationships between our people, and she will take her children with her so that they can remember where they came from and what they learned there." That night after the ceremony was finished, Tommy and Lisa stood on a high balcony overlooking the capital. The city was built of crystal and stone, and it glowed in the darkness like a jewel. Behind them, they could see the vast palace where they had spent the last 3 years. Lisa took her brother's hand, just as she had held their mother's hand when they were young children trying to survive on a small mining colony. They were older now. They had learned the language and customs of an alien race. They had changed in many ways, but the bond between them remained the same. "Do you think Mother and Father would be proud of us?" Lisa asked. Tommy nodded. "I think they would be more than proud. I think they would understand what has happened here. I think they would understand that their lives meant something, that their choices created something bigger than themselves." Lisa squeezed her brother's hand. "We are going back to Outpost 7 tomorrow," she said. "I almost cannot believe it." "I know," Tommy replied. "We have grown so much here, but we need to go home. We need to show people there that change is possible, that the Empire can be different, that they can be part of something larger." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lisa spoke again. "Do you remember what Mother told us when Father died? She said that love does not end with death. It just changes form. It becomes something that lives in the people who remember and carry it forward. Yes, Tommy said, I remember. He looked out at the city again. And I think that is what is happening here. The love that Corinne gave to our mother, the love that our mother gave to us, it is changing the entire empire. It is living in the Queen now. It is living in Colonel and Petros and in all the others we have met here. The next morning, boarded a ship with Tommy and Lisa. The Queen came to see them off. She held each of them close and did not let go quickly. I will miss you, the Queen said to her daughter. I will miss you too, replied. But this is what we must do. These children must grow up between two worlds, and they must teach both worlds that separation is a choice, not a necessity. As the ship rose above the palace and began to leave atmosphere, Tommy and Lisa looked down at the world below. They thought of the humans who had raised their mother. They thought of the Queen who had chosen love over tradition. They thought of the galaxy that was changing, slowly but surely, because a woman had returned home holding the hands of her two human children. Colonel watched the ship leave from the ground. Beside him stood Lisa's friend. They were watching their friends depart. Will we see them again? Asked. Yes, said, I believe we will. The Empire is different now, and in that difference lies the future. A future wherein a human can stand side by side without fear. A future where strength is measured not by the power to destroy, but by the wisdom to build together. On the ship, as they traveled through space toward Outpost 7, gathered her children close to her. She held their hands just as she had held them years ago when they were small, and the future seemed dark. We are going home, she told them, and we are bringing hope with us. And in that moment, as the ship sailed toward distant stars, the galaxy began to change. Not through conquest or force, not through technology or military power, but through the simple, quiet power of love. The power of creatures who chose to care for each other. The power of a family that refused to be divided by species or distance or difference. The Queen's missing daughter had returned, and in her return, she had brought something that the Empire had never possessed before. She had brought the possibility of understanding. She had brought the possibility of unity. She had brought the possibility that strength and compassion could exist together, that a galaxy ruled by fear could become a galaxy ruled by hope. And it all began with a woman who held the hands of her two children, walking toward a future that had never existed before.